Nah, I got y'all fools this time. Hit it.
Carlos is here.
YouTube, bro. New vid. How every single serial killer died, bro. It's not every single. Oh my god, bro. I could never speak. It's not how every single serial killer died, but how so? How the big part of them. Alright, bro. What am I even talking about? We just gonna get into it, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
When the switch was thrown in Florida State Prison's electric chair on January 24th, 1989,
this nigga look
Ted
crazy,
Bundy
though.
finally faced what no courtroom or escape could delay: the end of his control and life. In the days before his execution, Bundy was calm and cooperative. He spent hours with investigators, confessing to more than 30 murders committed between 1974
so this nigga, he wanted the end experience, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
1978, though most believed the real number was even higher. He offered excruciating believed did between 1974 and 19 to more than 30 murders committed between 1974 and 1978. Though
damn, bro, so this nigga really, bro, 30 nigga, this nigga villain, bro. He more than a villain, bro. Yo, he
believed the real number was even higher. He offered excruciating detail, but not remorse, saving what he knew as bargaining chips he would never get to spend. At 7:06 a.m., Bundy was escorted into the execution chamber. Witnesses included officers, journalists, and relatives of victims. After he was strapped into the wooden chair, electrodes were fixed to his leg and scalp. His final words were simple: "Give my love to my family and friends." When the current hit,
this nigga do not care, bro. He deadass, he do not care. He do not care at all.
2,000 volts surged through his body for nearly a minute. The smell of burning material filled the room. At 7:16 a.m., a prison physician pronounced him dead. He was 42 years old. Outside, a crowd of 2,000 people celebrated, waving signs, lighting fireworks, and chanting,
"Yo, nigga, how evil you gotta be for all these niggas to be celebrating your death, bro? That's crazy, bro. That's crazy, nigga. Don't
Bundy,
care."
burn. The man who once manipulated judges, juries, and victims was finally gone.
Shit.
Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't executed by the state, but his death
now, this nigga, I don't understand, bro. Because one thing, like every single time, bro, if a nigga talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, bro, there's always these female who find this nigga attractive for some reason, bro. I don't understand, bro. This nigga he killed so many niggas and still, bro. Hey, I'm not gonna lie. You do you at the end of the day, bro.
Come from inside the prison walls. By 1994, Dahmer was serving a 16-life sentence at Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin for taking the lives of 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. In prison, he kept a low profile.
I thought he did. Oh, I thought he killed females too. Oh, no, he didn't.
But
this nigga was after the niggas. That's crazy.
Occasionally made dark jokes about his crimes, angering other inmates. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was assigned to clean a prison gym bathroom with 2 other inmates, Christopher Scarver and Jesse Anderson. The men were left unsupervised for about 10 minutes. When guards returned, Dahmer was found on the floor with severe head wounds. Anderson was also critically injured. Scarver later told officers he'd used a metal bar from exercise equipment to commit the act and claimed he was acting under divine orders. Dahmer was taken to a nearby hospital.
All the niggas in prison tripping, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
But was gone an hour later. The official cause was clearly blunt force trauma. He was 34 years old. His body was cremated per his request. His brain initially preserved for study, but later destroyed after his parents disagreed about its fate.
I feel like yo, niggas just trying to study the nigga thinking, bro. That's crazy, man.
John Wayne Gacy's execution didn't go as planned, and when there was a problem with the IV, His end lasted much longer than intended. He spent the day in prayer with a Catholic priest, and for his last meal had a bucket of KFC chicken, French fries, fried shrimp, strawberries, and a Diet Coke. Not a Coke, a Diet Coke. Even as he prepared for execution, he couldn't bring himself to risk the sugar. Outside the prison, crowds gathered to celebrate the end of a man who had taken the lives of 33 young men and boys. Shortly after
bro, why is these niggas always after, bro? Like, come on, bro. Like, I understand, but damn. In fact, I'm not gonna say it, bro, but bro, it's every single time they killing the niggas, bro. What the niggas do? What wrong sound effect? What the niggas do though? What the niggas do, bro? It's crazy.
Gacy was strapped to a gurney in the execution chamber. He appeared calm and even joked with guards. His last reported words were, "Kiss my ass." 2 IV lines were inserted to deliver a 3-chemical sequence meant to end his life within minutes. But before the injection began, something went wrong. One of the tubes clogged, forcing a delay of about 10 to 18 minutes as technicians scrambled to fix the line and find a new vein. Gacy remained awake, restrained on the table. Witnesses described the scene as tense and awkward, with reporters later saying it was a botched performance, comparing it to an amateur surgical procedure. When the flow resumed, he closed his eyes and went quiet. At 12:58 a.m., a prison official pronounced him dead. He was 52 years old. His brain was later removed for study. Nothing special was found. Eileen Warnow.
What is they trying to find when they study these niggas' brain, bro? I'm confused, but like, what is they looking for?
Begged the state to execute her. She meant it too, and they accommodated. By her final day, she had spent more than a decade on death row for taking the lives of 7 men in 1989 and 1990.
I'm telling you, bro. If one more time, if it's one more time that I hear these niggas is getting hold, bro, we might, bro. Like, these niggas is,
Her final years were filled with erratic behavior and conspiracy claims. In a letter to the court, she wrote, "I'm competent. Let me have my execution." She fired her attorneys, accused prison staff of treating her improperly, and told reporters she believed the government wanted her dead. In her last days, she declined a final meal and instead requested a simple cup of coffee. On the morning of October 9th, 2002, she walked calmly into the execution chamber. Witnesses say she appeared emotionless as she was strapped to the gurney. When asked if she had any final words, she said, "I'll be back, like Independence Day, with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie. Big mothership and all. I'll be back." Whatever the heck that means. At 9:47 a.m., the lethal injection began. Within minutes, her breathing slowed, her eyes closed, and doctors confirmed she had passed at 9:53 a.m. She was 46 years old.
And she still ain't back. That is the crazy part. Damn, bro. How long was this ago?
Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, never made it to the gas chamber. Something else got to him first. He received a capital sentence in 1989 for 13 fatal attacks across California in the mid-1980s. But the appeals process dragged on for years. During that time, life for Richard Ramirez could have been worse. He got married to a journalist who had written to him in prison and continued to receive letter after letter from fawning admirers. Then, in 2013, Ramirez's health sharply declined. He had been diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma, a form of cancer. The disease spread quickly to his liver and lymph nodes, causing liver failure and secondary infections. He also suffered from chronic hepatitis C and other complications from decades of his illicit—
Bro, this nigga just getting, he getting all the bad stuff, bro. He getting all the
substance abuse. He was transferred to a hospital facility within the prison system, where his condition worsened still. He developed bed sores, chronic fatigue, and severe jaundice. Those who saw him near the end said he looked decades older than his age, with a waxy complexion, thinning hair, and
damn, bro, how old is this nigga? Yo! They doing that, bro. These niggas like they just spun the wheel and they gave this nigga whatever, bro. Everything, bro. They just adding it up. Yo, they tripping. That's crazy. That's actually crazy, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Damn, bro.
Thinning hair, and a hollow face. At
Shit.
9:10 a.m. on June 7th, 2013, Richard Ramirez passed away from liver failure secondary to lymphoma. He was 53 years old. No family members claimed his body.
Yo, this nigga, bro. Are you sure this ain't the worst one, bro? I'm not gonna lie. He got done dirty, bro.
Compared to his larger-than-life fame and legacy, Charles Manson's passing was pretty uneventful. By then, he had spent nearly 50 years in prison, serving multiple life sentences for orchestrating the 1969 Tate LaBianca incident. He was one of the oldest inmates in the California prison system. In early 2017, Manson's health began to decline. He was hospitalized several times for intestinal bleeding and other complications. Doctors determined that he had advanced colon cancer and failing organs, but he was too weak for surgery. In his final days, he was moved under guard from Corcoran State Prison to a hospital ward, where he remained conscious but frail. Staff described him as quiet and largely unresponsive. There were no official last words. At 8:13 p.m. on November 19, 2017, Charles Manson had passed away from cardiac arrest, with respiratory failure and metastatic cancer listed as contributing causes. He was 83 years old.
Nigga, that part was low-key crazy. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually
his body was later cremated after several people fought over his remains, including his grandson and another man who claimed to be his son. After 12 years of
what the fuck? Yo, bro, no, niggas is weird, bro.
Terror and 2 years of trial, Andrei Chikatilo's passing lasted less than a second. This Russian madman, Andrei Chikatilo.
Of course. Of course, bro. I could have seen it from a mile away, bro. Like he just looked like kid, like, bro. I ain't gonna say nothing, bro, but he looked crazy, bro.
Chikatilo's passing lasted less than a second.
He looked like a
Russian madman had been convicted of 52 fatal attacks committed between 1978 and 1990. In court, he often ranted, laughed, and even exposed himself to the jury. But once he was found guilty and sentenced, he quieted down and kept it in his pants. He spent his final months in solitary confinement at Novichokhovsk prison, calmed and detached, rarely speaking to prison guards. On the morning of February 14, 1994, he was taken from his cell without warning, likely not knowing that this day would be his last. Russian officials at the time gave no advance notice of the execution date, and after his appeals were exhausted, he was led to a small soundproof room and ordered to kneel. A barrel was placed to the back of his head and bang! No more Andrei Chikatilo. He was 57 years old. There were no witnesses, other than the officials there and, of course, the man that did the deed. Chikatilo's body was buried in an unmarked grave, its location withheld by the state, so no one really knows where he is. Albert Fish had been convicted of taking the life of a 10-year-old girl he lured from her home, a crime.
Nigga, bro, 10 years old, nigga, what she do to you? Bro, what she do to you, bro? Like, she ain't done nothing. Stop.
That exposed a lifetime of other horrific behavior. Fish claimed his acts were commanded by God, and told psychiatrists he expected execution to bring him salvation. The state would accommodate with the execution. The salvation was out of their hands. In his last evening on Earth, at Sing Sing Prison in Ossining, New York on January 16, 1936, he appeared calm as guards led him to the electric chair. Witnesses noted that he even helped the executioner fasten his own straps.
Yo, this nigga is actually, bro, he gotta be one of the dumbest niggas. Nigga, we prepare. Nah, that's actually crazy.
And showed no fear. When asked for final words, he reportedly said, "I don't even know why I'm here," though the reason was pretty clear to everyone there. At 11:06 p.m., the first current was applied. The voltage surged in multiple cycles, each lasting about 30 to 60 seconds, and was repeated. He was no longer living 3 minutes later. The execution reportedly required 2 jolts to complete, though officials never confirmed whether that was due to technical issues or his body's reaction. The doctor who examined him afterwards described his passing as instantaneous, though some witnesses believed it took longer than usual. His body was buried in Potter's Field on Hart Island, New York, as it was unclaimed. When the noose was hung around H.H. Holmes' neck and the trap door opened beneath him, the crowd thought it was over. It wasn't. Holmes had spent years deceiving and defrauding anyone who crossed his path. In Chicago during the 1890s, he built a 3-story maze of rooms and hidden chambers, later called the Murder Castle, where several people who entered were never seen again. He was finally caught for taking the life of a business associate during an insurance scam. On the morning of his execution, he had eaten eggs and dry toast and thanked the guards for their courtesy. When asked for final words, he calmly denied any wrongdoing, claiming responsibility for only 2 accidental mishaps. No one believed him. On May 7, 1896, at Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia, a noose was tied around his neck and the trap door fell. But
this nigga basically went creative mode and just made some type of a crib to kill players. Bro, that's mad dedication, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
It failed to break his neck cleanly, and he slowly lost his breath. Witnesses said he didn't flinch or struggle, just hung motionless as if waiting for something. He hanged there for nearly 20 minutes before doctors finally confirmed there was no longer a pulse.
Yo, my fault, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that's crazy.
Next, Holmes had planned for. He requested that his body be buried 10 feet underground in a coffin encased in cement to prevent anyone from digging him up. The prison, for some reason, granted the request, sealing him beneath layers of concrete. When his grave was exhumed more than a century later for DNA testing, his mustache was still intact. Harold Shipman was a respected family doctor in England for decades, known for his calm manner and spotless record. By the time he was caught in 1998, investigators believed that he had taken the lives of more than 200 of his patients, making him one of the most prolific life-takers in modern history. He had used his medical position to administer lethal doses of painkillers, often signing the death certificates himself. He was convicted in 2000 for taking the lives of 15 people and sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of release at Wakefield Prison. On the morning of January 13th, 2004,
you just got hold, my fault, bro. You just got hold for a second.
At Wakefield Prison. On the morning of January 13th, 2004, guards found him hanging in his cell. He had torn a bed sheet into strips and tied it to the bars of his window. He was 57 years old. Shipman left no note. Prison staff later said he had shown no signs of distress or mental illness. Some speculated that he timed his passing to spare his wife the loss of his pension, which might have been revoked had he lived beyond his 60th birthday. When guards finally checked Elizabeth Bathory's cell on August 21st, 1614, she was lying on the floor.
All these niggas is hella old, bro. Like, damn, these really some villains.
Cold and still. After 4 years of isolation, even her jailers weren't sure when she'd stopped breathing. Known in legend as the Blood Countess, Bathory was accused of committing terrible acts on scores of young girls at her castle in Hungary between 1590 and 1610. The true number.
Look, I said like the men was getting old and shit, but damn. Damn, my fault. The sisters getting old too, I'm not gonna lie. They're really getting old too.
The number of victims remains uncertain. Official records mention around 80. But later accounts claim it to be into the hundreds. In 1610, King Matthias II ordered her arrest. Unlike her accomplices who were executed, Bathory was never tried. Instead, she was imprisoned for life inside Catchtis Castle, bricked into a small set of rooms where food was passed through an opening. Over the years, her health deteriorated. She reportedly expressed discontent with her confinement, likely worsened by cold, isolation, and lack of light. Poor girl. By 1614, she could no longer stand. One morning, she told a guard she felt unwell. By the next day, she was gone. She was 54 years old. Her body was buried in the castle grounds before being quietly moved to a family crypt, possibly to avoid vandalism. The woman, once accused of bathing in blood, died in total darkness, alone behind a wall. Ed Gein, despite taking the lives of 2 women and exhuming corpses from local graveyards, was never executed. You see, he had been declared legally insane and was committed to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Waupun, Wisconsin. Later
I was about to say, like, if you insane, does that mean like you get a free pass or something? Like, I was confused.
To the Mendota Mental Health Institute. In July 1984, Gein was admitted to St. Mary's Hospital after suffering respiratory problems and weight loss. Doctors diagnosed lung cancer that had spread throughout his body. His condition worsened quickly. For several weeks, he was kept under observation, often sedated and drifting in and out of awareness. Nurses describe him as polite but mostly silent, occasionally whispering short answers when spoken to. He died there on July 26, 1984, at age 77, from respiratory failure secondary to cancer. Ed Gein went into the ground the normal way for once. He was buried in Plainfield Cemetery beside his mother. His grave marker was later stolen and vandalized repeatedly before being permanently removed. So which of these do you think served the most poetic justice? And
I'm not gonna lie, the person nah, bro, it was definitely, hold on, what's the nigga who got, it was Richard Ramirez or whatever, but like he really got struck by lightning, bro, like no cap, like just see, they did, you feel me? Alright, anyway, YouTube, that's it. Yeah, I know y'all seen I changed the YouTube name and everything. We on a new chapter, you feel me? We on a new chapter. No more lazy. We're done. Okay, yeah. For the first time ever, it's your boy Eli. Yeah, we out. Got you on the next one. No cap. No cap. No cap.